Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Late Night Dice, another episode of Ramblings from the Warp. Christian has returned. He is with us on this episode. So is Kyle. Say hi to everybody.
How you doing, folks?
Hey, everybody.
So, we wanted to get into a topic that's a little bit, it's not touched as much as I think it should. But first, I want to talk about 3.0. I know that, Kyle, I know you've been reading a lot online, and Christian's been reading a lot online, and I've seen the absolute backlash that's been happening, and I understand the frustrations, but I wanted to take a minute and just talk about it. I know that a lot of us are seeing the releases and we're not thrilled. There's been a lot of things that have been classified as missing in the new stuff. A lot of things are not being represented the way they were in 1.0, 2.0, and then now carrying into 3.0. I know that there's a lot of models, a lot of range that feels lost. I want to remind you guys, those of you who have been playing this game, and those of you that are new to this game are looking to get into it for 3.0. New players, you're not going to feel what the older players are feeling right now. And as much as I normally don't condone this, let them get it out of their system. They're feeling a kind of way. We've got kind of a kicked puppy situation going on right now. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Actually, one of my guys in chat described it as, it's like when you go on Christmas, you find out you're getting a bike, and then when you finally unwrap the present, the tires are flat.
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that was an amazing analogy of how a lot of the older players feel. The newer players are not going to feel the significance of why this gripe exists. So what I want you guys to understand is the Heresy community has always taken great strides to take care of itself, right? The Heresy group has always had a really good reputation for making sure that the game is where we'd like it to be, and not so much about allowing one or two things to side skew that. Now, with 3.0, I've seen some things, some guys have talked to me about some things. There's a lot going around right now, and there's a lot of insecurity about lists. And I want you guys to know that there are some concerns, but we still don't have a full picture. I know a lot of people are saying that they do and whatnot. We don't know what's going to be in the PDF document being released later this month after the drop. In the previous editions, that PDF document was very, very important to a lot of flair and flavor guys had in their lists. So after that document comes out, we can start having the conversation about what's next. For right now, if you're new and you're wanting to get into Horus Heresy, you're still going to have a great time. The rules I've seen are very balanced. They're pretty well explained. There's a couple of times where they repeated themselves in ways that were necessary, which that's just writing. It's GW writing. If you play GW games, you understand their writing is very self-conflicting a lot. If you're a returning player to Horus Heresy and you're a little worried about what's going on between the 2.0 to 3.0 jump, I want you to ask yourself how many times you've gone to a game and had a bad time, and how much of that was rules driven versus people driven. And just sit on that for a second and just breathe. Give it some time. Now, I'll be the first one. If we get the full drops, we get the PDFs, and the game is in a really rough spot, I'll be the first to address it. I have no problem doing that. But this community always takes care of itself, and we need to remember that. Kyle, Christian, do you guys have anything additional on that? I don't know if I summed it up correctly.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, like, if you know how to play 2.0, congratulations. Now you don't know how to play 3.0 because everything's changed. Everybody, you're on the same level as all the new people. I definitely would say keep an eye out for an errata or whatever they want to call it, an FAQ, or because I feel after what we've talked about and what we see, and I don't want to go too deep into it, I do feel that they may have misprinted some things or left out some rules that maybe change what they wanted. Or maybe I'm just dumb and they really do want to make this game the way that it's in the book right now. who knows? But yeah, it's all, just take a step back, take a deep breath. Don't get too caught up in the hype. It's still going to be a fun game, I hope.
Yeah, just to add on that, like, and we say it. I'm being an old horse when I say this. You have three different perspectives. Kyle knows the Heresy, doesn't know the 40K side. I don't know the Heresy, I know the 40K side. And then Gabe knows most of all of it. So you have three different viewpoints. And as talking to these guys, it's literally just take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. I get it. Some people aren't calling this a Horus Heresy. It's a new game. But from three different perspectives, if you just step back, play with the people you enjoy playing with, and that's where we're going to get into the etiquette part, and it's going to be okay. We get it. If you're playing with other random people, it's not jiving well, that stuff happens. But don't be afraid to meet new people and just find people you like playing with, because that's going to make the game experience, even if it's a new game. If you are learning together, that it's just going to make that experience better. So I think we're going to be okay.
And that's going to be a great pivot into our main discussion point today. So this is a topic I love to talk about, and I've never really had a place to talk about it, kind of like what we have on this podcast. And I'm excited to talk about this because I think it's the most overlooked thing about this game, about this community. And that's the etiquette of our game, right? We don't typically have the same etiquette problems you see with, say, like Magic or other games where, you know, they'll have everything from behavioral things to attitude to hygiene. Every game has its own quirks.
Not the hygiene.
Deodorant is a requirement.
Bro, we
I don't
got
care. I don't
Nurgle's
care if
Rot
it's
here
Magic.
too, Gabe. Come on.
I don't care if it's Magic the Gathering, D&D, Warhammer. Deodorant is a requirement.
A PSA to everyone, please, when you're going to major events of a certain amount of people, that deodorant is appreciated. There. Are you fuckers happy? Good. So, but there is an etiquette to tabletop wargaming that's kind of exclusive, and it's a little bit different than other types of games. And some of that etiquette is lost. Either it's through new players that are kind of, trickling into the game, or it has to do with existing players who don't know how to engage with new players. That's probably the number one thing that I've seen, that there's been kind of a roadblock there. And I want to talk about it. So, one of the first things with Horus Heresy and tabletop gaming in general, this transfers to 40K, this transfers to War Machine Hordes if you play that, this transfers to even D&D. A lot of these are going to transfer to any tabletop game that you play that requires models and things like this. These are going to be pretty much universal. The first is having your supplies. Right. So when I say supplies, if you're playing D&D, and a lot of our fan base is going to be D&D legacy or current D&D players, you don't show up without your character sheet. You don't show up without your book. You don't show up without your dice. The same is relevant to Horus Heresy and to tabletop gaming. You want to have all of your templates. You want to have your tape measure. You want to have your dice. In Kyle's experience, Kyle's learning Thousand Suns toward the end of 2.0, and it was very hard for him to remember all of his actions and all the things he can do. So Kyle actually went and made markers. He 3D printed some markers and he put those next to his units, and those were his personal cues to remember his rules. And the reason that's important is being able to get to your rules and cite your rules prevents a couple of bad experiences from happening. The first bad experience is unintentional slow play, right? If I have to stop the game every 10 minutes to go look up a rule because I didn't read my rules ahead of time, I'm doing a disservice to my opponent. I'm slowing down the game. I'm killing the immersion. I'm damaging that experience. It's not a good experience for him, and it's not a good experience for me because I'm having to go, wait, let me grab my book. Wait, let me open my phone. Hold on, let me pull up my new recruit sheet. You should have these things available to you. You should have your rules. You should have your books. And most importantly, you should be able to cite your rules. So if you come to me and you're like, yeah, these guys have this really cool rule, it's called Shrouded in Death. Okay, what gives them that? Oh, it's inherently on the unit. Okay, well, can I read that rule? Yeah, I didn't bring that book with me. That's a bad experience. That's a bad time. You should be able to cite your rules. You should have all of your templates. You should have all of your dice. You should have your tape measure. I was guilty of this. Last month we were at War Games Con and I completely spaced and forgot my tape measure. So I went and bought a tape measure. It's rough when you're playing a game with someone and they're like, "Hey, can I borrow your tape?" I'm an irresponsible adult.
Hey, can I borrow your template?
Yeah,
See,
like,
I
hey,
did that the whole time because I didn't have any 30K stuff. But
I mean, yeah. So
we don't.
I mean,
Oh.
go ahead, Christian. What's up?
We don't want to scare anybody out of it. I'm pretty sure Gabe's going to talk about this down the line too of etiquette, bringing all your stuff. But if you're a veteran, dude, if you're a veteran like Gabe is, if you're a veteran like Lance is, uh, who else has done it for us? Like, just everyone else out there that we played with, the good people that we play with. Some of these guys will bring extra supplies of this, not for other people, probably for themselves, because some of this stuff can break. Sometimes you just get a lot of stuff and you just have it. If you could bring extra stuff for other people, for new people to play, that's cool. But don't try to be that person all the time that doesn't bring their stuff.
Yeah, to go along with that, another really important thing about that is, like, I know that at some of our events and at some of the stuff they've done, one of our group, Lance, really cool dude. He's won an award called Event Mom like 4 times.
That's what I was. Yep.
Yeah, the event mom is the person, at least at my events. I know this personally. The event mom is the person who brought the super glue repair kit, the extra templates. You know, I'm not saying don't share with your fellow gamer. I always bring extras of all my stuff. I make my stuff available because I know that not everyone has all their templates, all their stuff. What I'm saying is it goes a long way to have all of your stuff. If you're a new player and you didn't know any better, fantastic. I have extras. If you've been playing this game as long as I do and you have my template for more time than I have it, I'm going to feel a certain way about that, which
Yeah,
leads to the next part of that. And this is like the other thing about that is if you are borrowing things from people, please take care of them.
Gabe's been in the game so long, he has a Titans that he also, lets people use. He lends Titans to people.
Do you know how fun that is to actually do?
I know.
It is incredible when I go to an event and I'm just like, "Oh man, you're playing way over there. Hey, can you take this Reaver and pilot it? I got too many on my hands." And they just look at me like, "What?" Because the first part of it is like, "Holy crap, I get to pilot a Reaver." And then the second part is, "Holy shit, what happens if I break this Reaver?"
That's me.
Right.
I'm the second half of
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
that's
so
Lake Hammer like 4 or whatever. You're like, nah, it's all good, man. You want to play in the thing? I got a Reaver for you. And I'm like, fuck no, I'm not moving that. I was like,
yeah,
I'll play it. I'll roll the dice, but I ain't moving it.
dude, I'm right here, open invitation. If you run into me at Adepticon, you want to run a Titan, holler at me. I'll let you play with one of mine in the APOC game. But so
Now, I
what?
do want to say, when it comes to letting people borrow your dice, a lot of people are superstitious about it. Keep your grubby fingers off my dice. But if you let someone roll your dice, they're probably going to roll pretty shitty because that's how dice roll. They don't like rolling for other people. So go ahead, let Lance borrow your dice at Lake Hammer because he forgot them for the entire weekend. He will roll terrible the entire game.
Etiquette, boys, etiquette. Come on, etiquette.
so so this is the other thing too, and this is probably one of the biggest etiquette things. And I'm going to come across really aggressive, and I mean it as aggressive as I say it. Ask permission before you put your dick beaters on my models.
That's so true. Don't touch other people's models. Yeah.
If you want to look at a model, if you want to interact with somebody's models, I love being complimented on my models. I know there's some guys who go to tournaments. My buddy Brian Byers, he's the number one example I found of this that I've actually played with, where he'll go to an event and he doesn't care if he gets first or last. He cares if he gets best painted. Our buddy Mike up in Pennsylvania, he's the same way. Mike will say, like, I don't care if I win or lose. I don't care about the game. I care about making my models look good. I love that mentality. It's fantastic. We have thousands of dollars invested into this game. And I expect a certain level of respect for every player that when I walk up, if I look at your model and I say, hey, man, that's a really good model. Do you mind if I take a look at it? If you tell me no, I'll be like, fantastic. Thanks for your time. I won't touch your models. If you tell me yes, I'm going to hold that model very, very carefully. I'm going to take very good care as to not harm it, hurt it, scuff it, drop it. I'm going to be very careful with that model. That's respecting other people's properties, because the paint job on that model, I don't know if that guy is a world-renowned painter. I don't know if that model is a Golden Demon model winning thing. I don't know if that's the first model he ever painted. And people are very sentimental about very different things. So when you're going to interact with somebody's models or with another army, and this also goes into when you're playing game state, sometimes you have to remove models to get to a model, things like that. Talk to your opponent, make sure he understands, like, hey man, I've got to move this model, but you're playing, in Kyle's experience, this happened to us like 4 or 5 times. Like, hey Kyle, I need to remove that tactical marine you moved, but he's covered in all these small brittle resin swords. How would you like me to remove that model?
Throw that bitch across the room.
So that's
He died. Throw him.
that's where you just have to be careful, and that's all about how you treat your opponents in that etiquette. Is show respect to their army, show respect to their craft, show respect to their property and any property you're borrowing. Everybody, I haven't met a single person yet in any game I've ever attended to where I was like, hey man, do you mind if I use this template? And they're like, get fucked, Four Eyes, you can't touch my stuff. That's never happened.
Well, it's because you don't wear glasses. How the fuck are they gonna call you Four Eyes?
I wear shades when I'm drunk. So no one's ever done that to me, but I know that it's a possibility. So I brace myself for the possibility that maybe this dude let somebody borrow a template earlier that day and it got snapped in half, and now he's a little testy. Right? I don't want anyone to feel that way when they play against me. If you want to use one of my templates, you can. Just let me know you're borrowing it. Make sure it gets back to me. That's going to lead into the next portion, which is the painting and modeling aspect of this hobby. I know a lot of guys are going to fight me on this. This is Gabe's hot take for the day. Paint your shit. Please paint your models. And the reasoning behind it is less about I painted, so you have to paint. It's more along the lines of I've walked through some event halls and seen some beautifully painted armies. And I was like, man, that battle looks amazing. And then I've gone to a local store where there weren't painting requirements, and somebody has an equally impressive army lined up across a base primered gray army and just kills it. Now, I don't care how good the other army looks. I'm just like, an unpainted army, and I walk away. It is a disservice to your opponent if your models are not painted. Now, I know that's a hot take, and I know some people are like, mind your business, Gabe. It's my business if I paint my fucking models.
I'm one of them.
Cool. I get it. The other thing is, this is a hobby-based game. You should want your models to look good. Now, I'm not saying that if you're a first-time painter or you're new to the hobby, I don't knock paint jobs. I knock assholes. If you walk over and you have a beautifully painted model that looks great, I'm like, man, that's an awesome model. If I walk over and it looks like you dip that model into melted crayon and it's on the table, I'm like, man, that's a great model.
It's painted. Good job.
It's painted fantastic.
And that's one thing where you kind of heard me say that, Gabe's hot take, I kind of disagree with it because I kind of agree with it and I kind of don't. But on the flip side of it, I want to say just how Gabe said it right now. We want y'all to paint y'all's models the way you want to paint them. And the reason I say that is because on the other side of the etiquette, don't discourage people not to paint their models. That the reason why some people don't paint their models is because you have to encourage them to paint it. Let them feel good. Even if it's bad, good, whatever, at least they took the time to paint it. They took the time to buy the other stuff in the hobby, making this hobby grow, and they took time to at least paint it because we're not all good painters. So be that helping hand to guide them to say, hey, paint your models.
You don't have to say, that's the best painted model I've ever said, but you can say, hey man, glad you painted your army. Thanks for showing up.
My first event that I had Gabe at, I had Custodes models. And Gabe forgot this until like last week. And he was trying to explain it to Kyle. My Custodes army now does not look like my Custodes army when I first got it. And if we have pictures from that lake hammer, my first painted Custodes models looked like I used whiteout, white with fucking fluorescent pink on it. But I just let that sink in.
Yeah, it
They're
looked like
ugly
going
as
to
fuck.
it looked like going to a Japanese tea garden and dropping acid. It was rough.
Yeah. But leading up to that event, I didn't have that much time. No excuses. But when I got there, there wasn't one person in the and at this point I haven't known Gabe. I don't think Kyle was there yet. Brian was there. Shout out to him. He made my first 2 lake hammers fucking amazing. Just Adeptus Custodes versus fucking Space Wolves the whole time. It was so fucking fun. Jody, Justin, all the guys that were there, Grant, no one bashed the painting at all. It was, they look good. I'm glad you painted your models. Hey, would you like some tips to put some more stuff on this? Hey, would you hey, if you just highlight it there, that will make that spot shine a little bit better. Stuff like that. Just be a helping hand.
And if you have the desire to become a better painter, join us on our Discord. We've got a painting section. People talk about techniques and show off what they've done. Don't be intimidated to show up and be like, hey, look, here's my crayon. Tell me how to make it better. And they'll help you.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. That's how we actually got better at painting, was just being around other painters. And the other thing too is, like, I've never been so bold as to say, like, hey, if your models aren't painted, you can't come to my event. What I do say is, if you have unpainted models at my event, everything will have preferred enemy against those models. Right?
Great.
It's not okay. It's okay that you have them unpainted, but we're going to do our best to get rid of them quickly. So that's how I feel about it. I want you to have painted models. I want you to have a beautiful army. And that the painting and the modeling aspect is really what makes the game. And I love people that put their individual flair on models. There is a part of me in Heresy that's like, yeah, there's a really like standardized, you got to paint the colors of the legions, whatever. That's not a hard rule. There's no rule anywhere that exists in any book ever written for the current process for Horus Heresy, the current rule set for 40K. As far back as I can remember, I don't remember there ever being a rule that says, if you don't paint it like we paint it, fuck you. I don't remember that ever being in a book ever. Right? So paint them how you want to paint them. If you want white with fluorescent pink, do you. If you want custodians that are full red, white, and blue, Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, you can do that too. If you
Why are you
have
talking about 2 armies, man?
low hanging fruit, bro. So if you have an army that's Thousand Sons and you want to identify squads and you want to paint them up like villains with different color gloves and boots, you can do that. There's no rule against it. All we ask is that you put time and effort into your army. Now, the modeling aspect of this is also very important. You should have something about your models that's uniquely you, whether how you base them or a flair that you put on them or something. Make your army your own. That's the beauty of a hobby-based game, is you can do it. Right? Now, this is going to lead into a different section of this conversation where everyone has had a mixed bag, and that is behavior and attitude. When you show up to a game, specifically against me, when you're playing against me, everyone I've ever played, you can ask tons of them. I've played with some of the guys from the Accountability Buddies crew. I've played with guys from Warzone. I've played with guys from Alamo, guys from War Games Con. You get the energy you bring. If you're a jerk, I'm a jerk. Now, prime example of this. Clearly explaining what's going on so that people understand what you're doing, right? I was guilty of this. I blew my shit one year. Richard, my dear Mechanicum friend, if you're out there, I apologize for flipping my shit at Warzone last year, but here it is. I was playing against my opponent, and he was marking things on his Mechanicum. Now, I had never played against Mechanicum because no one ever plays spider robots. I'd never played against them, and he was putting these markers. I'm like, hey, what are those markers? And he's like, oh, it's my Thagmata. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And he just handed me a stack of papers. Now, on one hand, you brought me a printed out copy of your rules. That's fantastic. On the other hand, if you think I have time to read this right now while we're playing, we got some shit fucked up. But I was like, okay, point taken. Let me scan through here and find out what he's talking about. I couldn't find it. So I was like, could you please explain it for me? And he's like, yeah, I put this on there and it marks that they have this thing. And I'm like, that didn't tell me what the rule was. What does that do? And after about 3 turns of this, I'm not proud to say I flipped my shit. I said some keywords and I basically said, I've never played against Mechanicum. I need you to elf this shit. Explain like I'm 5 so that I know what it is. You only have to tell me once. I'm a smart cookie. I promise I'm the smartest 5-year-old out there. Tell me once, I'll lock it in, we'll be good. After that, we had a fantastic game. But that first turn was really rough. I regret doing what I did. It was not good. Afterwards, it was kind of like a drinking story where I was like, yeah, I kind of lost my shit on this guy. And they were like, okay, but was it a good game? I'm like, it was a good game, but I'm not proud of what I did on turn 1. That was on me. Explain what you're doing. Explain what's going on as you're doing it, because just because you know your rules doesn't mean your opponent knows your rules. And the only thing that I've ever appreciated about Horus Heresy more than 40K is Horus Heresy never had the gotchas that I experienced in competitive 40K. I never really experienced that in Horus Heresy. That was one of my biggest, like, I love this game because of this. The attitude and the behavior is another big part of it. If you can learn to get your ass whooped with a smile, you're going to have a great time. Winning isn't everything. I know it's fun, but it's not the entire game. I have more fun stories to tell about getting my ass just stomped than I do about fantastic wins. I played against Alan at Alamo GT this year. My brain has never sweated before. That was a rough game for me. Like the whole game, I was just like, okay, if I move this here and this gets here and this goes here, and somehow by a miracle he doesn't kill it because I kill that, I can hold this, and then I can move back and I can take this. And then in the middle of all this planning, they were like, hey, fun fact, orbital bombardment plate hits right here. And I was like, shit. Reevaluate, remeasure, recheck. The whole game, I was like pushing and pushing. I lost that game, but it was a very good mentally challenging game for me. You should enjoy what challenges you. You should enjoy the game as it is. You should enjoy the spirit of the game. Whatever you project, your opponent is going to pick up on. So if you're having a bad time, like, and I've even done this. I even did it with Christian one time. I said, "Hey man, my last 2 games were really complicated. They were really annoying. I just need a vent for a second before I get to table 3."
Yeah.
That's happened. Because I don't want the guy at table 3. I don't want to show up and be like, "What's up, dickhead? Are you running a list with las cannons too? Great, fuck it, send it." I don't want to be that guy, right? So
I feel like we always do that. Like, but I just think that's any game. Even if you have some good games or whatever, it's always good to
you have to have a soundboard.
take a little bit and talk about it. Just talk about it. Cause
Yeah, you've got to talk it out.
yeah, even if it's just for yourself, because there's been many times where we've had good games and the opponent on the other side is a really good player. They did everything right. You're not mad at them. You're kind of like pissed at yourself. You're like, fuck, I forgot a rule. I forgot this. I did that too. Like I went a whole game and I forgot this whole fucking rule. And I'm like, I forgot my unit could do this. There's sometimes you just gotta talk about it, talk it, and just remember your stuff. Also, before we move too far about attitude and behavior, Gabe was talking about knowing your rules. Yes, we get mad when other people somewhat don't know the rules, but we don't know every army. We started this podcast so we could teach everyone every army, so we could all learn it together. But there's also a good way to ask somebody. If you don't know a rule, how Gabe asked, there's a way to call someone out without it actually seem like don't make it seem too harsh. Don't make it seem bad. Just ask them politely. You don't have to be an asshole and be like, I don't fucking believe you. Let me see your damn book. You don't have to do it like that.
So this actually happened at War Games Con. Gabe
Yeah.
and I are teamed up against Seth and Lance, and we're going through the battle, and I'm in the movement phase of my snipers, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna move my snipers, and I did, and then all right, shooting phase, and I started to shoot, and Gabe goes, those guys move, they can't shoot, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure they can. He goes, no, Nemesis bolters are heavy. And I was like, okay, and I pulled out my rolls, like, no, they're relentless. That means they can move and shoot. And Gabe's like, oh shit, I didn't know that. All right, cool. I was like, that's a nice way to say, hey man, you can't do that because of this. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure my rules. No, look here, right here, relentless. It says it right there. And even Gabe was like,
Yeah. There
oh
was
wow, those guys are
one
really good.
time, I forgot when it was, but me and Gabe were playing, and Gabe had a nice interaction with someone, and he didn't really call them out. That person was wrong. Forgot who it was. Doesn't matter who it was. But instead of Gabe saying, "Hey, I know I'm right, you're wrong," Gabe says, "Man, that's a really cool thing that they could do. Never seen that before. Um, can you mind just showing me that rule?" And this was not right then and there. Gabe let it play on. He said, "Okay, that's cool." Took a mental check of it. When it wasn't on that other player's turn, when it was on Gabe's turn, on Gabe's time, did all the other stuff, and just said, "Hey, man, what was that rule that allowed you to do that?" They looked it up together, and it wasn't there. No harm, no foul, man. You know what? We're already past that point. Even game state doesn't bother me at all. Now we know. Let's move on with the game, but let's just point it out that now we know you can't do that. There's a way to go about it without seeming like a dick, and there's a way to go about it where no one's mad. There are some people out there that are not doing this stuff because they want to cheat.
Yeah,
It's
I've seen call outs in lots of different ways. One of my favorites was my buddy Joel, who would say, "I'm not sure that's how that works. Can I see that rule?" Really nice way of saying, "I think you're wrong. Can you show me?" Right. So there's ways to do it right, and um, what I will tell you is there's a direct correlation between your frustration level and how you ask that question.
That's
yeah.
true.
That's exactly why I started it right there.
Yeah, like there's a direct correlation between how pissed off you are at the course of your game and how you ask that question. Like I remember I was playing against Seth against the White Scars, and I was like, "There's no fucking way that's true. Can you show me?" And,
Shout out to Seth. Goddamn.
and Seth
No,
was like,
I'm-
Seth's exact response, he goes, "It does sound like bullshit, right? Let me show you."
I know
But that's
mine was.
also because like
I know mine was. I'm gonna move here. Let me guess. You're gonna shoot me and then move like 34 inches away. Then Seth was like, something like that. Yeah, hold on.
but that's also like that might sound a lot bad to people. Like we're telling you not to do this, but this goes back full circle with the cooldown. Everything's gonna be fine. It depends on the people in the group you play with. We have such a good group together. There's times where we're just fucking around with people. Like you do something, we know these like mind blasts do. If Kyle fails them, that instead of him taking the wounds, we have to take the wounds. And then when it happens, we're like, fuck you, I don't believe that. Show me your rule book, show me the page number. I want you to quote it. When did it happen? We're fucking around, guys. You have to have that good mindset, that attitude to play with people. It's a fun hobby.
Yeah, there's guys I've played with for years that I know I can get away with certain things.
Mhm.
Like when I play against Jody, I let my ass show. Right, because I've been playing games with Jody for 15 years. Like I've got time invested with that guy. When I'm playing against certain people, I know I have to be a certain way. And there's also definitely a difference between me playing an Adepticon and me playing Beer Hammer in my garage.
Yeah.
Right. There's a
Time and a
contrast
place.
there. Yeah. So definitely those are some of the things. Now we're going to move on to the next part, which I know that Christian and I are going to have a conversation about this. We want to discuss the contrasting differences between doing competitive gaming and narrative gaming, what it means to us, and what we've seen it mean to other people is what I'd like to get out of this. But this is going to be a tangent-filled rant.
It's gonna be a ramble, all right.
Narrative, and it's going to be really difficult because narrative is very subjective, and so is competitive if you really think about it, because I've helped people build lists before, and I love to build lists. I love to make knockdown, drag out, like bring tissue, you're going to need it kind of list. I love doing it, and I love saying, okay, now don't play that like an asshole. I love it. I love having the built-in position to turn it on and off when I need to, right? But I know a lot of guys that when they go to a narrative event, one of my favorite ones, my buddy Richard, who plays Imperial Fists. I've played him at 2 Alamo GTs and 1 Heresy game now down in Houston. I love playing against him because he has names for his units, he has names for his squads, he has stories of how he got those names. He is a narrative player. I love that. I love that interaction. I love that feedback when I play. I've also played against people that were like, "Yeah, I built this out in my garage because I said, oh, Gabe will be there, and fuck that guy." I've had that interaction too. So, for me, at least my opinion, and I want to get Christian and Kyle's opinion on this as well, because we all have our own viewpoint on this. I see narrative as building your army around a theme and being able to tell a story around that theme. It doesn't have to be based on a book or anything like that. If you want to, it's fantastic. But when I build my Ultramarines, I build my Ultramarines in the theme of the tactical flexibility of Ultramarines. So my army is a catch-all, and it's up to me to conduct this meat orchestra of death. Because like my Ultramarine lists, I've even given them to other people, and they're like, "Man, that army's terrible." It's like, yeah, it's won 3 events. Like, it's not that I think the army fits into a theme of a certain book or story. It fits the theme of how Ultramarines play in my head. When I think competitive, it's okay. I'm bringing a list that when I made it, I came to peace with the fact that I had enough friends before I got to that event. Right. So that's what it feels for me.
I went
So
with 4 and came back with 3 somehow.
yeah, it's definitely one of those like, "Hey Gabe, how'd your event go?" "Oh yeah, man, it was really good." I definitely have to send Christian something good for his birthday. He might be feeling some kind of way right now.
or
You
or
know,
like the first time or the second time you played Custodes, and I was like, I know, Gabe, and you're like, no, you don't know, Christian. You don't know how good this is. I was like, okay. I came in with one friend, and Gabe left afterwards.
yeah. So
It happens.
Kyle, I'm eager to hear your viewpoint on this because you're a relatively new player and you haven't had a lot of exposure. What do you feel is different between narrative and competitive?
I said this during when we talked about it in one of our earlier episodes. I didn't know that there was a difference between competitive and narrative. I just thought like you showed up with what you showed up with. But I think that a competitive list can be brought by someone who is not a great pilot, such as myself, and can be accepted. Like I brought a competitive list to War Games Con and Alamo GT, and it wasn't played competitively because I don't know how to play it that way. Gabe brought a narrative list and could play it competitively. And so it was one of those like, okay, cool. Like you shouldn't show up to one of these tournaments, to narrative tournaments, to kick people's teeth in. It should be a fun game, give and take. Some people take it really serious and role play everything, like what Gabe was talking about, the army that has named characters and everything. That's cool. That's his shtick. I'm not like that. I like having my guys be a little crazy, but I have fun. That's how I look at it. Like I'm not there to kick teeth in, but to play the game.
All right, Christian, I'm about to regret asking this question. How do you feel about it?
It depends. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're let's focus on the heresy side. Let me say it this way too. This is why I'm glad we have a new system coming out for Heresy. We have 3.0 coming out because we're all starting fresh. Coming into Horus Heresy as a new player coming from a different game system, I didn't know the etiquette of what narrative and competitive is. The reason I say that is because there's a certain type of etiquette in the Heresy. It controls itself, like Gabe has said off and on. But you see stuff that you know is good, and you want to take it. Now, I know you don't go overboard and you don't take like 3 10-man las cannon squads or something just to like push it down someone's throat. Like, I get that. But there's a part of me that there's a fine line in what narrative and competitive is. Because, like Kyle said, Kyle brought a competitive list. He didn't know he brought a competitive list. He wasn't trying to be that guy. He just brought a list that I thought was good. And yes, it was good. It wasn't the best thing in the world. It wasn't like unkillable or something like that. But I did the same thing too. I brought a bunch of tactical Marines thinking that I didn't know it was going to be as competitive as it was until we actually started playing it more. And I realized my army was not that complicated and it was still good. I didn't win a lot of my games, but that was on my end. But some people still saw it as a competitive list. I didn't know how to play it competitively. When I got there, I was truthful and said, "Hey, yeah, it is competitive. I believe this is a really, really good list." Um, and some people looked at me and said, "Hey, it's a competitive list. I can't believe you brought that." But I didn't know how to play it. Shame on me, I guess. Um, so I really, it's hard for me to answer this question without getting people mad because there's sometimes you know what the fuck you're doing. There's sometimes you know when you bring 3 contemptor dreadnoughts and 2 las cannon teams, you know what the hell you're doing. But there's sometimes people just want to test things out. Like, n- we're in this hobby to buy stuff and look cool. There's sometimes you just want to play with their models, dude, and sometimes you want to like Gabe did at one of the events at Lake Hammer. He's like, "Man, I might be that guy for this, but I don't get to play with my dreadnoughts a lot." So he brought all of his dreadnoughts. I can't fault him for that. Now, was that a was he being narrative or competitive? I say he was bringing pretty narrative at that point because he's also looking down at like 5 other guys in an APOC game that all have 2 las cannon squads. We have Titans on the other side of the field. So, it I don't know how to answer this question. Like, I don't know. Do y'all get how I'm trying to explain this? Like, it's just hard for me to explain this. What is y'all's input on it?
So I get where you're going, which is going to lead to where I was going to talk about this a little bit more. Knowing your audience and knowing your game is very important to how you play in the list you build. Now, I do a certain number of events throughout the year. Like, I try to get to Adepticon every year. I try to get to some of the local games here every year. The stuff in Dallas, the stuff in Houston, the stuff in Austin, San Antonio. I try to get to all these games. There are games, I will not point out which ones they are, but there are some games where I look at it and I'm like, okay, cool. That one's going to need some teeth.
Man, I felt
Right.
like that about my Death Guard list.
There are times I'll look across, I'll see an army, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have to really work at this one. So the way you play and the way you build your list and everything else is going to be reflective of the kind of environment you play in. There are places that no matter how much they call themselves like, oh, we're a narrative based community, like, cool, you have a guy in a list with 30 las cannons. I don't believe you. Right? Then there are guys who are like, yeah, we're a fairly competitive meta. It's pretty good. Like, are you sure? Because that guy has seeker squads in a world eaters list. I'm not sure that's very competitive. Right? So it's all relative. And so what I would tell you from what you're saying, Christian, like the interpretation of competitive versus narrative is very, like this is when I said that we're going to be very polarizing because we all see it differently. You know, in your experience, you came from a gaming environment that there was a lot of underlying competitiveness, even when they said they weren't being competitive.
I
I
feel like
came
that's
from
it in Heresy though too.
right,
That's where it's kind of hard, and not calling
right.
out people or anything, but yeah.
What I think the problem is with Heresy, where the water gets a little muddy, is, you know, guys are like, yeah, I brought a really thematic list, and like, cool, what's the list? Prison rape? Like, what's the theme? What's the
Yeah.
theme? I'm
My theme is competitive, Gabe. Come on,
like,
that's me
I'm
to a T.
yeah, like I remember I went to War Dome, one of the events down in Houston, and I took a very mild Ultramarine list. It was like straight out of a codex, straight up company composition, like 3 rhinos, 3 tactical squads, a dread, some heavy weapons teams. Like it was very, very vanilla ice cream Ultramarines. I lined up across this World Leaders, Word Bearers player, dude. Shout out to John, great dude. He brought Pride of the Legion with 2 Terminator squads as his troop choices. He brought a unit of Galvor back with like a knockoff Argos Hall. He brought 2 Derrideo Dreadnoughts, a Contemptor Dreadnought, a Mara Gaul, and 10 Ashen Circle. And I remember seeing the list and going like, this shit's gonna suck.
Dude, that oh god.
Yeah, I looked at it. I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, it's a pretty good list. It's kind of what I'm thinking about bringing to Warzone. And I'm like, you should definitely take that shit to Warzone. 100%. That way I can play it with a list tooled for this bullshit. This list is strong, but pump the hate brakes. It is very thematic, right? That's how you would bring word bearers to go do some hood rat shit, right? So in a way, like in my head, I saw the thematics behind it. Now,
You brought the Ultramarines to bring a regular ass planet into submission. He brought the word bearers to decimate that fucking planet.
no, like 100%. My guys are like, yeah, we're here to pacify some regular humans. He goes, we're going to a planet where the insects have blades for dicks. Like, yeah, dude, 100%. Like you queued up and teed off for the right job. I remember looking at that, and at the end of that game, I was really proud of myself because at the end of the game, all he had left was 2 Terminators and 1 Derrideo. Like I put in some work against that army, still lost, but it was a great game. And I even told him, I was like, dude, that list is great. And like, later on in the day, he came over. He's like, yeah, I feel like this list might be a little strong. And I'm like, do you?
Do you think?
Do you feel that way? And then he's like, yeah, do you think it's too much? And I was like, do you want like my opinion? Like my actual like uncut opinion? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, take that shit to Warzone.
Yeah.
Take it to Warzone, carry a little baggie, and just tell people this is your teeth bag. This is the bag you collect the teeth in. And he was like, but I don't want to play a list like that. And I'm like, you're doing a damn good job playing a list you don't want to play, my guy. Like that. There's a short list of lists I've looked at that gave me pucker factor, and this made the top 3, my boy. And
Uh,
so understanding the theme, like in Horus Heresy, I think the problem of differentiating between a narrative list and a competitive list and that underlying competitiveness that you deal with is, I've said this before, in Horus Heresy, you find you're crazy and you lean into it. That's the balance of Horus Heresy, is everyone has something crazy. And even from what we've seen in 3.0, there's still some stuff that's kind of crazy. It's a little bit different, but there's still some stuff out there, right? The concept is that when you build a list, you build it to fit this idea in your head. And no matter what you do, somebody's going to be like, oh, that's disgusting.
yeah, there's always going to be someone.
There's always going to be somebody. Follow the theme.
Oh, you brought Thousand Sons? That's disgusting. Man, you don't even know what they look like. Yeah, I don't care. They have psycho abilities. That's disgusting.
Yeah, I remember I went to a game and I was like, hey, man, what was the theme on this? And he's like, I knew you'd be here. Okay. I was like, okay.
Gabe said something's making my ass itch. He looked over
Yeah.
there. He goes, "Oh shit, that's for me."
Yeah. Like I've actually had people be like, I knew you were going to be here. I'm like, okay, noted. Fair. Cool. I'll be the one to say that sometimes hood rat shit happens. Cool. So that's the biggest thing with Heresy, where it's sometimes hard to see that gray line, is because a narrative list can be very effective. I built an Iron Warriors list that was incredibly thematic. And the first thing it was called at my first ever time to Alamo GT was oppressive. And I was like, damn, I didn't call anybody Toby or nothing. Like, why is it oppressive? I don't understand. And they were like, bro, like you brought 50 bolters with pinning? Yeah, that's what shrapnel bolters do. But why 50 of them? Because I had the points.
So I figured there'd be objectives, and I wanted all of them.
And I remember I was actually arguing with one of the guys there. He was like, "Yeah, 50 tactical marines." I was like, "Would you rather I brought a 4th dreadnought?" And he's like, "That's not what I said." right. So,
But this is also a thing. I think it comes back to knowing your audience, knowing who you play with, and this is where I want us as a community to get better. Because when me and Gabe played, there's times, and I have 2 different scenarios. There's times where me and Gabe are like, "Bring the rain. Let's push ourselves to the limit to see what we could do with this." When we're going to another event, we're like, "Okay, we know not to take this because this is this strong. Let's try this." But then there's people that call us out or it says, "Hey, Gabe, I want you to bring your strongest because I want to play against that." Okay, cool. You know how we could fix all this for knowing ourselves? All get together as a community. When there's war, and this is another thing that me and Gabe have talked about, and this is not in our topics. As a community, if we grow and we talk to each other in these different discords and these discords that have events, and just talk to each other year round. We know Alamo GT happens every year. We know Adepticon happens every year. We know Lake Hammer and everything. These events happen every year. They don't change. The date might change, but they happen. We get in those discords and we talk to each other. We're not a big community where like 100 there's like 100 attendees at some of these events. There's enough that where we could talk to each other, and there's no gotcha moments, bro. Tell us about your thematic list.
You could be halfway through a game and then just decide to start drinking and talking to people instead of playing.
yeah, 100% that happened at War Games Con. I was playing with Seth, and like half the game, I shit you not, half the game we were doing like this. I was like, yes, sir, that looks to be a great shotgun, sir. That was the entire game because we were shit faced, right?
And then this was after Gabe realized that he left one of his tactical squads in the room upstairs. So he's like, well, I guess I'm not taking this game too serious today.
But that's what I'm saying. If we know our audience, if we know these events are coming and you just join the discords of the events or local people that are going to that event, y'all could have talks about what you want to bring, why you think it's narrative. If they want the heat, you bring the heat. You bring that dick kicking list. But when you go there, be honest. Say, hey, I think this is a good list. My 2 buddies wanted me to bring it. Let me play one of them first. You could challenge people in that event. When I went to Alamo, I told them, hey, I think this list is like a good 8. I don't know how to pilot it, but I still think it's an 8. Put me against everyone else that you think could live up to it. And that's what they did. Like, just knowing your community, talking to people, be honest with your list and be honest to people, you'll have a good time. That's basically
Yeah,
what I'd say on that.
that's one of the big things that I've always been a big proponent of is talking to your communities and building your communities. There's, one of the things we're trying to do with our Discord, at least what I'm trying to do, is I have a finding games portion of our Discord. I have an event portion of our Discord. If you have an event in your area, feel free to post it in the Discord. I want to know about all the events. I even want to know about the events that are not in my state. I want to know about the stuff happening in Bama. I want to know about the stuff happening in Oklahoma. It's not like I want to go to Oklahoma if you live there, no offense, but I want to know about the events there. I want to know what's there so that if other people are like, yeah, I'm going to be in this place, I'm like, hey, man, hit up my boy Blake's event in Bama, right? They have the Bama Heresy group, and they are doing events out there all the time. If you're out there, cool. When he comes down here, I want to be like, hey, go hit up this game store. They're really good to play. They got a good group of guys. I want to be able to do that. And part of that is talking to people consistently in the hobby, discussing what's going on. Because the other thing that I can tell you that every game like this is true about Warhammer, about tabletop gaming, about Magic, about everything. Nobody likes the guy they've never met before who walks in and is just like, you're all fucking idiots, and let me tell you why I have a list of 3. Right? Nobody is going to listen to that. Instead, what they're going to do is like, hey, you're new. Yeah, I have some concerns. I want to get y'all's opinion on it. That's how I met some of the guys at ABB, right? Is I was like, hey, you know, I'm playing Heresy and I have some ideas, some thoughts. I'd like to run it past some people that have played more than I have. Cool. I'm not afraid to say if I think someone's wrong, but I also want to hear all the opinions, you know, because that's how you build the game. That's how you build the community. That's how you make friends. You know, I've got a few friends in a lot of different places, and I have 2 or 3 people that want to hit me with a car. Fair, right? But you won't know how much you're going to enjoy or not enjoy a community until you give it a chance. And not talking to anyone for an entire year, then showing up to an event and being like, "Here's my list," and everyone in the room is like, cool." That's because you haven't been playing, so you don't understand the tempo and the rhythm of what's going on in the game. Not your fault. It's more the fault of the fact that communities don't talk. You know, one of the things that I cannot stress enough, I believe that one of the core foundational things that has to exist for you to be a Warhammer player is an inability to read and complete entire paragraphs. That leads to these issues where somebody's like, yeah, the rule says I can do this. And I was like, hey, did you read the second part? What second part? Let's go look it up. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. It's cool, man. I struggled with reading too. I did the same thing with Kyle. Oh, Nemesis bullshit, can't do that. He goes, what about the relentless? I retract my statement. So and that just comes from talking, meeting people, enjoying people, and in the process, you're going to refine your craft. You're going to meet cool people, good painters, fun communities. Stay engaged, stay active. That's where you're going to find out what different communities consider competitive versus narrative, what they're going to consider to be good attitudes and bad attitudes. One of the worst side effects of a bad game is turning into a rules lawyer. I can always tell when somebody's having a bad game because every time I say something, they're like, yeah, I don't know if that's a rule. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure everything has a ballistic skill, bud. You'll get these rules lawyers that are starting to like dissect the game, and it's like, okay, clearly my opponent's having a bad time. Maybe we need to go to have a beer and just take a minute. Maybe we just need to talk for a second. Something isn't clicking right. Stay engaged. Learn the people you're playing with. Learn the game that you're playing, and just get involved. For all you know, you could be the next person that has that great idea that an event has been missing. I know that every now and again somebody will pitch me an idea, and I'm like, yep, that's making it into Lake Hammer. I don't know how to break it to you, but it's happening. So, any final thoughts, guys?
Go for it, Kyle.
Just be bros. Just have fun. Like, wash your ass. Wear deodorant. Bring your shit. Paint your shit.
I tell you what, I'm gonna go talk about right now. Like, you want to talk about reading a room? I like how Christian keeps putting Kyle in the fucking spot every time I ask this question. He's just like, "What do you think, Kyle?" Like, just out of the blue. I love it,
Bro, if I don't say, what do you think, Kyle? I don't know if we'll hear from him, so I have to.
I was gonna say something after you, man.
Or you just have the thing where me and Gabe are trying to find the spot to speak to each other, and Gabe like stays silent for a really long time, and then I'm trying to interact, and then right when I do it, he says something. And this is supposed to be uncut and raw. We can't have that shit happening all the time, okay? This ain't getting edited out right now. This is real shit.
Oh. All right, well, if that's the case, we'll go ahead and wrap there, guys. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Ramblings from the Wart from Late Night Dice. Fuck Erebus. Happy dice, happy life. Have a great time, guys.